Thank you all very, very much for joining us today for our webinar co-hosted by TechLinks and Confident LIMS on the topic of cannabis labeling compliance made easy with LIMS integration. So we're going to start today with introductions. I'll start with me and then I'll pass it to Scott and Steve, my two co-presenters. We're going to touch base on the exciting news from the FDA and the DEA's acceptance of it on the rescheduling of cannabis, of recreational cannabis. We're then going to pass it over to Steve from Confident LIMS to talk a little bit about Confident LIMS and demonstrate it. We will have Scott share with us some of the common cannabis labeling pitfalls that we see happen every single day and that we help address. I'm going to share with you guys a little bit of information about CodeSoft, our cannabis labeling software. And then Scott is going to demonstrate CodeSoft and one of our printing forms that lets us acquire data live from Confident LIMS, as well as any other system or source of data for test data or batch data. Scott is going to share a brief, exciting story about a company out of Hawaii that leveraged CodeSoft and Confident LIMS and a printing form to be able to achieve some seamless integration and really help fix a problem that they were about to have. I'll share a little bit of information about some exciting things coming in our next launch of CodeSoft 2024, and then we'll wrap things up with the Q&A session. So without further ado, I am Nick Recht. I am one of the presenters today. I am the sales director here at TechLinks. I've been with TechLinks for 15 years, and I can honestly say that I absolutely love my work. Every single day here at TechLinks, I get to help people use technology to solve business problems, and that's something that I am certainly passionate about and something that I've been able to do in my various roles here at TechLinks over the past 15 years. I enjoy building better connections in all aspects of my life, whether it is better connections with Confident LIMS and CodeSoft, as you'll see here today, or better connections with friends, families, neighbors, and just general relationship building. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm going to pass the mic over to Scott, one of my partners in crime here today, to introduce himself.
Thank you, Nick. So my name is Scott. I'm a developer, technical product guy here at TechLinks. I've been doing pretty much everything and the ins and outs of use cases across different industries, and more recently really focused on the cannabis industry and kind of how to make the process better in there. I've been here for 7 years in that time, and I have a lifelong passion for technology. My dad decided to teach me how to use Control-Alt-Delete before he taught me how to read, so he set me up for a good career in technology. And on the subject of things I'd learned before I knew how to read, I was playing Pokemon with my mom when I was on my little Game Boy Color when I was a kid. So I am a passionate Pokemon fan. Nick and I will often play on the weekends, and beyond that, playing a lot of volleyball and just you know, going to concerts and hanging out with some friends.
Right on. Thank you, Scott. And now I'm going to pass the mic over to Steve to introduce himself.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining. I'm Steve. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of Confident LIMS, formerly known as Confident Cannabis. So you might know us as Confident Cannabis. The company's been in business for almost 9 years now. This month we turned 9 years old. So from the very beginning of a lot of states' legalization, we currently serve about 60% of the testing labs across the country, and I think about 30 different states, and about 80%-ish of the testing volume that goes through the supply chain. So if you don't already use Confident, you can probably find a lab that does and get a free account, and we can help you with your labeling, among many other things. Our goal with starting the company is to just help cannabis businesses operate more efficiently. Compliance is hard, lab testing is annoying to deal with, there's lots of data, so we want to make sure that we can streamline it as much as possible for you. So that's what we'll talk about a little bit today. But first, why now? So why are we talking about this now? As many of you know, the DEA accepted the recommendation by the FDA to reschedule cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. So it no longer is deemed to be harmful and of no medical use. It's about time. We've been waiting for this ourselves for better part of a decade, finally it's happening, which is great. And now it looks like there's going to be more regulation, more interstate commerce, more banking available. So there's pros and cons to these changes, and we want to help you get ahead of it. So one of the things that I think will probably happen is, companies will need to professionalize a little bit more. Supply chains will become more robust. Companies will probably get more funding, which means they'll get bigger, which means more employees, which means more SKUs, more assembly lines, and all of that requires automation and efficiency. And we're here to help, which is part of the reason why we partnered with TechLinks as our preferred vendor for labeling solutions. And it's, a unique thing in cannabis. You got to get your test results on those labels and package them appropriately. Otherwise, they're not in compliance, and those test results change batch by batch. So manual entry is just not a good option long term. So our integration with TechLinks can really help with that. We'd like to show you how. So as I mentioned, Confident Cannabis, or Confident LIMS these days, is a laboratory information management system that is used by about 60% of the labs. So I just wanted to go to our old webpage just so you know where to find us. Confident Cannabis, this is a logo you might recognize. We are now Confident here. The reason for the change wasn't because we are leaving the cannabis industry, just that we have some customers that are starting to test other things besides cannabis, and so we want to serve them as well. So you can either go to our old website, confidentcannabis.com, click login or register. It's free for you. If you're a testing client, you can come to our new website, confidentlims.com, and click sign up or login as well. So once you're in, this is what the platform looks like. Let's say you want to place a new order. You can come here to click new order. You'll see all the labs that you've tested with in the past to place an order with them, or you can see all of the available labs that we serve in your state. So over 130 labs across the country use Confident, and so you'll probably find one near you. That's where it all starts. Once you get your test results back, you'll see all of your tests all in one place from multiple labs, which makes it very, very easy if you test with multiple labs. And you can do all sorts of things like print labels, get your results, share your results online, things like that. You can also track all of your orders by status. Is it in progress? Is it completed? You can see the invoicing and a number of different things. Again, everything I just showed you is free and available for use. All you got to do is submit samples to testing with one of our partner labs. And with that, I will turn it back to the presenters to talk about how labeling works.
Thank you very much, Steve. So the polling question here is, what is the biggest obstacle in cannabis labeling that you face today? And to, not a surprise to me, but maybe to a surprise to some of the audience out there, you're not alone. Manually entering data onto your labels is a major pain point on many different fronts. Not only that it can be time consuming, but also that it can be error prone. And errors are not only expensive to fix if you catch them beforehand, but can be very problematic if they leave your door with bad data, bad results, bad strain information and whatnot. It looks like the second most popular answer is having to print multiple labels from one production or for one product. That is, something we see pretty regularly as well, whether it is printing two labels, like one for artwork and one to overlabel it, that Scott will talk about a little bit more, or even if it's one for two sides of the same product. That's something that we'd love to talk to you about. We actually have a partner out of Illinois that can serve the whole country that does a really good job of making print and apply machines that can introduce some major efficiencies there. So thank you guys for sharing with your answer. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and go on to our next slide, where Scott here is going to discuss with you guys some of the common cannabis labeling printing pitfalls.
Awesome. Yeah, and a lot of the pitfalls, I guess we kind of just looked at with the poll questions, but to dig in a little deeper, the over-labeling that Nick glanced on a moment ago is more about, putting not only too many labels on the product, but also on top of each other. What we see a lot of is, there's a jar with fancy artwork label that's been really well designed, and then over top of that, because of state requirements or changes or anything, the lab data and everything that needs to be on there is just printed out on a little black and white label that's stuck over top of that beautiful artwork. So what we can do within CodeSoft, and I'll touch on later too during the demo, is how we can include not only the artwork that you're printing, but as well as the relevant data, so you don't have to label something twice or cover up something that your designer worked hard on. Second being certainly the most common is manual data entry, which always opens up the risk of error. Someone fat fingering something, someone accidentally reading something incorrectly, and then now that's on a product times 100, and now we have to go out and recall and make sure we see the correct labels on all those different products, adding a lot of time and sometimes fines and sanctions. The third is kind of step in the right direction, but something that is still error prone is downloading spreadsheets from your different data providers, whether that's Metric or Confident or wherever you have your data stored. Downloading spreadsheets is a great step into removing user entry, but it also adds another step in the process of going to download that spreadsheet. And if you don't, you're at risk of printing now invalid data, out of date data, stuff that maybe the software is a little confused on where it thinks it's pointing, where you downloaded it. So it opens risk in making sure all the little things under the hood are working. So what we wanted to do is kind of remove all of those risks in one package with Confident LIMS, with a printing form that talks directly to their APIs. And the way we did that is combining their services with CodeSoft, our flagship designer, which Nick is going to talk about.
Thank you very much. So CodeSoft is our recommended cannabis labeling software here from TechLinks. It's a very well established in the market product. It actually came from other industries. TechLinks has been in business for over 30 years, and CodeSoft has been one of our products for that entire time. So when people in the cannabis industry leverage CodeSoft for label design and printing, they're actually getting about 30 years of enhancements and benefits from other industries to deploy within their cannabis manufacturing business at this point. So CodeSoft has a couple of key features that I really like to mention in the introduction here. First is the intelligent user interface. You can see the ribbon across the top of the screen there. If you're familiar with Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel, you'll be able to learn the ropes of CodeSoft very quick. It lets you create custom barcode labels or custom labels in general, with or without a barcode. We load up into CodeSoft the state-specific cannabis label samples. They're available on our website. And even if you choose not to use it, it's often a better starting point than starting with a blank slate. You can connect to various databases or scales. In this case, we're integrating it with Confident LIMS. We're a Metric certified integrator. We've done work with BioTrack and then other various cannabis ERP and seed to sale softwares. Basically, if you have data, we can help access it onto your label and print it in a streamlined, automated fashion to one of our over 4,000 different built-in printer drivers. And if we don't have a driver for the printer you're trying to print to, we can certainly print to it if it's a printer that's able to print. And then with that, we offer flexible licensing options, whether it's something that you want to buy and put in your printing station, or something that you want to subscribe to, or something that you maybe want to run on a cloud server and just have automate your labels printing directly out of your ERP system. It's something that we can help with. So that was kind of the overview of CodeSoft. I'm going to give it back to our resident expert, Scott, to introduce what he did to make it so that CodeSoft can leverage the data in Confident LIMS to help you have a more efficient labeling process.
Fantastic. So what we've done is kind of just combined these two very well established platforms in CodeSoft and Confident LIMS to kind of create this magical, so to speak, path and process for labeling your lab data and your different products. So our whole overarching goal in this was to make the labeling process as simple and smooth as possible. A lot of the state requirements are complex and have a lot of moving parts, but complex doesn't necessarily mean to be difficult. And that is not an original thought. I saw that on a billboard and I thought that was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. So what I have here open is CodeSoft. And if you've seen any kind of designing software in your time, this should hopefully look pretty familiar. There's that ribbon that Nick was describing across the top of the general functions. On the left are the different objects that we can put for designing our label, and on the right is our different data sources. So the key piece of this integration is the kind of the separation between the objects on the label and the data sources. We can design a label however we would like it to look. If I just click on the label after hitting the text field, I can go in and create a text field that has exactly the text I need in it with the exact font and location and formatting that I am required to have. Same goes with barcodes, images. We can put any image on here in color, in black and white, and different formats. We can take Illustrator files, JPEGs, Savage graphics, you name it. But I won't waste too much time on showing you how to use CodeSoft. I have a label prepped for us that we'll actually be using for printing out of the Confident solution. So what I have here is certainly not a label that will meet any specifications, and that's partially because in our demo account, we don't have a full suite of data like you would have, but I just wanted to highlight kind of some of the key functions here. One being we have our strain in the middle, our sample type, the cannabinoid totals for THC and CBD, and then a link to the COA on here. And you'll notice there's little blue halos around some of these fields, and that is indicative that the field is pointing to a variable, kind of what I was talking about a moment ago. It has a particular formatting, but that data that's sitting behind there can be dynamic and feed depending on what you're printing. And so what I've done here is just a link to the COA and all these pretty simple fields on here. And for the printing process, I'll minimize this and show you my Confident account. And these are all the different samples that I currently have. And to kind of harken back to the times of manual printing, oftentimes what we would see is someone has Confident open on one screen. Okay, I need to go and print a label. So I'm going to go over to my labeling software, adjust some values, make some changes, go back to Confident, manually adjust, and kind of go back and forth, which is a big time suck and also pretty error prone, as we were talking about before. So the solution to that is our little printing form here. So what this printing form does is what I've said already a couple of times, is it kind of brings together the two powerhouses of this operation. It goes out using API credentials to your Confident LIMS account and will pull back live the data that is in your account. So you'll see all my different samples in here match what samples I had in my Confident LIMS account. And as I select a different sample, that data is being applied to my label and changing dynamically based on what I need to print. So we don't need, it's important to note here, we're not downloading a spreadsheet. This isn't kind of pre-cooked with, we had an export. This is talking directly to Confident, so we know that the data is always correct and it's always up to date, which is a huge factor. So if I need to, I can go filter some of my samples and say I'm printing, 100 jars of Blue Dream, and all of my data that I need on my label sometimes isn't in what the lab reports, because it's individual SKUs for your company or where the product is going to as far as dispensary goes. So we can create more fields down here that the user can enter so that you can have all that data on the label that you need when you print. And in a lot of cases too, the lab is able to plug in particular data, like for example, a product SKU, into the lab report, so we can continually move all the data into Confident so that we don't need to have to worry about a user remembering to enter a particular field. On the subject of constantly updating requirements and different things, we can create many different label types or having to put multiple labels on a product. What I can do is I have just a COA label here, very straightforward, that just has the strain and a link to the COA. And if you scan that, it'll actually take you to Confident's website to the COA. I remember I was working with somebody in an implementation of this printing form, and they were downloading the PDF, uploading it to another website, and then using a QR code that they got from that third-party website on their labels. So adding a ton of steps of download, link, the labeling process was very manual. And by doing this, by connecting directly, and we can just have the link to the COA on there. And say, for example, your state comes out with a new requirement. Maybe for our example here, I'll pretend that they require a packaging date, whatever date this was. So we can add a date variable in CodeSoft. I won't dig too far into all the different functions in here, but we can set, hey, we just want you to pull from the system clock in the format of day, month, year, and we can immediately drag and drop that onto the label. put it in our particular spot, do all the formatting. This isn't going to look very pretty, but functionally, as I go and now select my label again in the printing form, our change management is very efficient and very easy. Now we can see that in my printing form, we have this date sitting on my label. So now my users don't have to worry about it. Me as the administrator, I was able to go in and make an update to the labels, and the users don't need to do anything, and it pushes out immediately. So that is kind of the idea is we have combined these two things to make it a simple, efficient, accurate process with not a lot of thought for your users. All they need to really do is point and click onto what they want to be printing, and then fire off what they need, and then spend more time getting product out the door as opposed to labeling the product itself. So there we go.
Yeah, great. So Scott, I see a couple of current Confident LIMS users on the attendees list.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not subscribing to the data feed today, would you mind popping that open and showing them how to do it?
Definitely. So to kind of make this work in the back end, in your Confident account, if you're an administrator user, if you're not an administrator, you won't see this integrations tab under your settings and organization. But if you are, you'll be able to see this, and you can generate API credentials for any of Confident's other partners who use their data. And Steve can speak a little bit more expertly on this, but this is kind of just the whole page of getting all your data exported more efficiently and how we make that connection in CodeSoft.
Yeah, that's right. So it's very easy to get started. Once you have test results in Confident, all you have to do is go to settings and then organization and then integrations, and you'll see this page. And you can connect to TechLinks by clicking the generate API credentials button and then copying and pasting those two codes into TechLinks software. And after that, all of your historical test results and COAs will be sent to TechLinks and made available for labeling there, as well as all of your future test results. So if you ever want to kind of go back and get started right away for things that have already been tested, no problem. You can get started anytime. It is a paid subscription to enable these integrations, and they start at $20 a month for the entry tier, and then they just vary depending on how many samples you test every month. You can upgrade or downgrade as your sample volumes change. It's all self-service, no need to contact us. First step would be to contact the folks at TechLinks to get started with their software. But once you're up and running with them, you can just get going on your own within Confident.
And then Scott, can you do us a favor and tell us the success story that we had with our friends over at Green Aloha?
Yeah, definitely. So Stephen is the cultivation director at Green Aloha in Hawaii, and he gave us a call on a Wednesday in a bit of a panic because he had a ton of product. He said he estimated 4,000 or 5,000 labels he needed to have printed by Monday, and he was out of compliance. The Hawaiian Department of Health had changed some specs on him, and he was really behind. So after our call, we set up the CodeSoft and Confident LIMS printing interface with him. We took the next day or so to kind of set up his label designs and walk through how it worked. And then I checked back in with him the following week on like Tuesday or Wednesday, and he said it was great. They were able to print all the labels that they needed. And then, in fact, the Hawaii Department of Health had showed up to his door on Monday to let him know, hey, these labels are out of compliance. We need to make a change or shut things down. And he was able to show them the new labels that he had created in CodeSoft and how he was printing them with the Confident LIMS data. And they were pretty blown away. They did not think he was going to be able to get it turned around in a matter of days to fit the new compliance, so they couldn't cancel their plane tickets in time to go get Steven on his labels. So it was an awesome experience, and kind of speaks to the whole idea and what we wanted to accomplish with the integration, which is easy to use, easy to update labels, and just kind of make the whole process much cleaner and faster. It was a really fun story to work with Steven.
Cool. And I believe in the coming months here, we'll be sharing more information, kind of like a full story, including results, Green Aloha. So keep your eyes peeled for that. One of the features that I am very excited about for CodeSoft 2024 is our ability to work with cloud-connected printers, mainly the Zebra and the Sato devices that have the Cloud Connect feature. It'll make it so you'll really be able to centralize the control of not only your Confident LIMS data, and your lab results, but also your CodeSoft and the printing form, and have it be able to print potentially at a variety of different dispensaries, processing facilities, or even grow locations. So it's something exciting, and we just wanted to mention it here. So without further ado, bear with me while I pop out this questions pane and address some of the questions that came in from our audience while we were presenting today. So the first one, this is one that I saw pop up while we were presenting. Can CodeSoft integrate with Metric and BioTrack? Answer is yes. It can really go far beyond that as well. If you have one of the cannabis specific ERP systems or other business systems in play, we're really experts at being able to connect to that data and drive efficient printing processes. And in some of our larger scale operations, actually print directly from that business system, not to eliminate the use of our printing form, Scott, but to replace it with a process that has even less fingerprints. Can the print form pull data in from multiple data sources simultaneously? Also a yes to that. I think this one was just pulling from Confident LIMS, but we've done a few projects. We're a Metric certified integrator, and that tends to be the other source for data that we connect to most commonly. Is it easy to migrate from another lab system to Confident LIMS? I believe, and Steve might want to comment on this, I believe you just need to request that lab uses Confident LIMS, and they'll probably sign up right away, but I'll let Steve take that one.
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you're a testing client of a lab, so not the lab yourself, yeah, certainly just ask your lab to integrate with Confident. And if you're a lab and you like your current LIMS, you don't need to switch LIMS to give Confident to your clients. So we can integrate with any third-party LIMS that you might use. Examples that we currently work with are QBench, Chromium Element, Labware, CGM LabDAC, et cetera. There are others. And so you get the best of both worlds. You get to give your clients the client portal that they want and the integrations with tech links that they want while keeping your current LIMS intact. If you have any questions about that, just email us at sales@confidentlims.com and we will get back to you and give you a demo for free.
Cool. All right, next question. What does it take to install the print form / how long? So I would say step one, download a free trial of CodeSoft. Let us know you'd like to leverage the printing form. You can get started with your design right away. That'll expedite the process. The actual installation of the printing form, what would you say, Scott, maybe 90 seconds?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So it's more a matter of getting it in your hands, having a conversation with you, making sure you're set up on a station that can use it with a printer that'll be supported. Install takes a couple of minutes. We're happy to help you generate the keys and Confident LIMS and put them in. And one of the key differentiators here at TechLinks is how prideful we are in our support. So we're happy to have somebody walk you through the initial setup to make sure it's good to go. So I'd say realistically, getting it set up, a couple of minutes, making it so your label is the way you want it and the drop downs contain the batch data in the fashion you want, maybe 30 to 45 minutes and you're good to go. All right, I see one here that says, I use pre-printed stock and want to bring labeling in-house. Can I easily move to CodeSoft? Absolutely. And there's a few different ways you can do it. While TechLinks works direct with many of our customers, we understand that we're a small part of a larger solution. And we have a very strong partner channel that helps with all the complementary things, like probably the people who are printing your pre-printed labels today. They're likely a TechLinks partner and can help you get set up with our product. Sometimes people bring it in-house and print the whole kit and caboodle on a color label printer like an Epson or a VIP color device, for example, and they do all that on demand, including the lab data. Other times, they just want to bring it in-house by just printing the lab data over the color label because that part might not change so much. So I'd say either way, if you're using pre-printed labels, you can bring it in-house and it's done with relative ease depending on how in-house you want to do it.
Yeah, and I was going to add on to that as well. In CodeSoft, we can set background images for designing on top of. So if you do have pre-printed stock coming in, what we can do is set the Illustrator file, whatever you have as your artwork, as the background to that label design that I was looking at a moment ago. And we can just design over top of it and kind of a what you see is what you get fashion. So if you want something to be just below a logo or next to a picture or something, we can design it in a way that it will print out very nicely with your artwork.
So next question we see here is, does CodeSoft have a feature that allows me to collect data from my scale and put weights on the label? It does. It has a couple of features actually. If you're using a old station and old COM port connected device, we can work with that. We also have a feature, it's called Port Watch. So as long as your scale can pass that data in via USB or a keyboard input, we'll be able to collect that data and either just display it on the label or actually use the weighing of that product as the trigger point for printing. How long has TechLinks been serving the cannabis industry? Well, that question makes me laugh because we've actually been serving it before we were trying to. We decided to jump in and put some marketing efforts and make some specific solutions and try to strike up partnerships with companies like Confident LIMS and then Metric and some of the ERP providers that we're working with now, based on the success stories that just happened from inbound tech support calls. So it was natural, and so I guess since Colorado legalized it. And then last question we have on the list here is, where do customers go for hardware and labels? Awesome question. So as I had mentioned earlier, we have a very strong partner channel, and we recognize that we're a small part of a larger solution. So while you can acquire CodeSoft directly from our e-commerce storefront, there's also a variety of different value-added resellers out there that can get you set up with your TechLinks product. And they're the ones who are really going to help you with hardware and labels. The hardware, not only the stations in which you might need to use or the mobile computers or scanners, scales, but also the printers and the media. They're really going to be experts on it, where when people say, hey, what label should I use for a product that needs to go on a jar, I'm going to scratch my head and refer you to a partner every time to let the people who know what they're doing in that front talk about it. I sincerely appreciate the questions. As I had mentioned at the front of the webinar, we like these to be as interactive as possible, and that can be challenging when everybody's muted upon arrival. So we appreciate the questions there.
And Steve, if anyone has any questions on Confident, where would you point them?
Yeah, the best way to ask questions is just email hello@confidentlims.com. Otherwise, if you can learn a lot more on our website, or just contact your lab if you already use a lab that uses Confident. But yeah, we're happy to help if you just email hello@confidentlims.com.
Awesome.
Thanks.
All right.
All right, cool. Have a great day, everybody. Much appreciated. Thank you for your time.
Take care.
Bye.